Raja Kachaya Asakachar Sada Sri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Iskand Pandu Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivada Kachaya Asakachar Sada Sri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Shahaidas Thakur Ki Himsago Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shiveda Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki, Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki, Madam Ki, Avrik Maya Pudam Ki, Jagannath Puidam Ki, Ganga Maya Ki, Damuna Maya Ki, Tulasi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, Gaura Premanandi. Ah, glorious to some of the devotees. Ah, glorious to some of the devotees. Ah, glorious to some of the devotees. Glorious to Shishi Guru and Goran. So we never read the translation to Jai Radha Madhava in the local language. But every once in a while I like to have a Jai Radha Madhava quiz. Go through it, make sure everyone knows what it means. So, who wants to say what Jai Radha Madhava means? Any takers here?
All glories to Radha and Madhava.
Very good. Kunja Bihar. Anyone want to take Kunja Bihar?
They are wandering around the bosque of Raj, but
the groves.
Yes, but
Bihari
isn't wandering. Bihari isn't wandering. What is Bihari?
Bihari is wandering.
No,
it's not wandering.
It's not wandering.
Yamuna Tiravanacha is wandering around.
Chari is wandering.
Yeah.
He's enjoying.
Enjoying, yes, he's enjoying. Yes.
Enjoying in the grove.
Yes, see, we found some discrepancies. Gopi Janabalava.
Jana means friend or dear.
Jana means people.
Is like the lover of gopis?
Yeah, that's how it's usually. The lover of the gopis. The gopi people.
Gopi, the lover of the gopis.
Girivaradari. Anyone?
The lifter of Govardhan.
This one.
Yes. So, Giri means hill, and Vara means best. Govardhan's the best hill. Dari
Vara also means blessing.
Mm.
Like Varada means the one who gives blessings.
Best who gives blessings.
Yeah.
Best.
And like Yadu, he's called Yadubara, the best of the Yadus.
And Dari is to lift.
Lifter. Lifter. One who lifts. Dara's lift, and Dari is one who lifts. Shodhanandana, that's an easy one. Anyone? Yes.
Beloved Nandana, beloved of this.
The son of Yashoda.
Yes, very good. Brajajana Ranjana.
Brajjan to the people of Raj.
What's that?
To the people of Raj, Braj Ranjan. Brajajana.
Yes. What's a Ranjana?
Dear?
He's getting pleasure.
Oh,
Yeah. Brajajana Ranjana, he's the joy or the pleasure, the giver of pleasure to the residents. Yeah. Very happy by to engage in pastimes with him and appreciate his qualities and interact with him. Gives him pleasure and transcendental bliss in this way. Yamuna Tiravanachari, you mentioned it before.
Wandering around the Yamuna,
around the
forest,
in the
banks of the Yamuna, and playing in the forest.
Yes, you got it. Yes, you got. Yeah, Yamuna is the Yamuna. Tira is the banks. Vana is the forest. And Chari is one who wanders. He's wandering through the forest on the banks of the Yamuna, performing amazing transcendental pastimes that give pleasure to all living entities. Jai, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Shri Adityar Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yata me Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Sa Manoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Shri Adityar Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Pastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Sa Manoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Shri Adityar Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Sa Manoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Please chant.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Yes.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Shri
Aditya Vacha.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Kenaham Vidina Brahman.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Upastasye Jagatpatim.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Yatame Satya Sankalpo.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Vidadyat Samanoratam.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Shri Aditya Vacha.
Srimati Aditi began to pray.
Srimati Aditi
Began to pray.
Kena,
Kena,
by which?
by which
Aham,
Aham,
I.
I.
Vidina,
Vidina,
by regular principles. Brahman,
Brahman,
O Brahmana,
O Brahmana,
Upastasye,
Upastasye,
can please,
and please,
Jagatpatim,
Jagatpatim,
the Lord of the universe,
the Lord of the universe,
Jagannath, Yata,
Yatha,
by which
by which
may my
Amen.
Satya Sankalpa
Sankalpa,
desire may actually be fulfilled.
desire may actually be fulfilled.
Vidadyat
Vidyat
may fulfill.
may fulfill.
Saha,
Saha,
he,
the
Supreme Lord.
Supreme Lord,
Manoratam,
Manoratam,
ambitions or desires.
ambitions or desires.
That word comes from two words, mana, which means mind, and ratam, which means chariot. Chariot of the mind. That word shows up in another verse that talks about how one who engages in devotional service develops all good qualities, where one who acts according to his mental concoction has no good qualities. The word manoratena, by the chariot of the mind, is mentioned. One who's attached to the external energy and bases his existence on his mental concoctions. Translation: Srimati Aditi said, O Brahmana, tell me the regular principles by which I may worship the Supreme Master of the world, so that the Lord will be pleased with me and fulfill all my desires. Please repeat. Srimati Aditi said,
Srimati Aditi said,
O Brahmana,
O Brahmana,
tell me the regular principles
tell me the regulated principles
by which
by which
I may worship
I may worship
the Supreme Master of the world,
the Supreme Master of the world,
so that the Lord
so that the Lord
will be pleased with me
will be pleased with me
and fulfill all my desires.
and fulfill all my desires.
Report by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is said, man proposes and God disposes. Thus a person may desire many things, but unless these desires are fulfilled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they cannot be fulfilled. Fulfillment of desire is called Satya Sankalpa. Here the word Satya Sankalpa is very important. Aditi placed herself at the mercy of her husband so that he would give her directions by which to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead so that all her desires would be fulfilled. The disciple must first decide that he should worship the Supreme Lord, and then the spiritual master will give the disciple correct directions. One cannot dictate to the spiritual master, just as a patient cannot demand that his physicians prescribe a certain type of medicine. Here is the beginning of worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:16. Chaturvida bhajanti mam jana sukriti norjuna arta jigasra artarti Jnanicha Paratar Shabha. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men render devotional service unto me: the distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Aditi was Arta, a person in distress. She was very much aggrieved because her sons, the demigods, were bereft of everything. Thus she wanted to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead under the direction of her husband, Kasyapa Muni. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Sai Murale Shmiti Bhaktivedanta Swami Stay Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pitaya Nirvisesha Srimivada Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gauravan Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Antakalpatarishcha, Kripa Sindhu Vebhata, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So different important items are being mentioned in this purport, and we'll try to go through them. Prabhupada starts out by quoting a saying, man proposes and God disposes. So we have so many desires that we want fulfilled, but we see that they're not always fulfilled. Isn't it true? Yes. None of us here has probably experienced a situation where every single desire of his was always fulfilled. Has anybody ever had all their desires fulfilled? No.
Very often.
So, the fulfillment of our desires is dependent on the will of the Lord. So that's an important thing to know. The demoniac people don't know that desires are fulfilled by the mercy of the Lord, and they think that by acquiring power or wealth or different material acquisitions, they'll be able to fulfill their desires. But even if one has everything going for him materially, one may still not have his desire fulfilled, because it's ultimately the Supreme Lord who grants the fulfillment of all desires. It's described he's sitting in the core of the heart, and he's Anumanta and Upadrasta. He's the overseer and the permitter. So he's permitting, yes, let this person's desire be fulfilled, and no, let that person's desire not be fulfilled. So then the next point is, of course, Aditi, in order to get the favor of the Lord, she approached her husband, who was a great devotee. So basically, she was accepting her husband Kashyapa as being a guru. This is very much along the lines of what Arjuna did. Arjuna was also in distress. He was in a situation where he was going to have to kill people who were very dear to him, kill his cousins and kill his teachers and kill his grandfather. And he was distressed about what to do, and in that distressed condition he approached Krishna as a guru. So the way we become free from our distress is to approach the representative of the Supreme Lord, who can give us guidance, or the Supreme Lord himself, as Arjuna was fortunate enough to do. So Prabhupada includes this line: a disciple must first decide that he should worship the Supreme Lord, and then the spiritual master will give the disciple correct directions. One of the principal leelas in the Bhagavatam, one of the leelas that Lord Chaitanya liked, was the leela of Dhruva Maharaj. And in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, his father wouldn't let him sit on his lap, although he let his stepbrother sit on his lap. And he was upset being treated unfairly, because they're both sons of the king and they should both be allowed to sit on the king's lap. But because the king favored one wife over the other, he favored the son of that one wife over the other. And therefore Dhruva got shafted. He didn't get the affection that he was expecting from his father, and he became very angry, and he decided that he wanted a kingdom greater than his grandfather. He didn't want to be minimized. So he went to his mother, and his mother said, well, the only person who can help you is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the sages go to search for him in the forest. So he went to the forest, and then because he was sincere to get good instruction, Krishna arranged that his pure devotee Narada show up. And then Narada told him precisely how to serve the Supreme Lord. Go to Madhuvan, to construct a deity, offer this prayer, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, etc., etc. And Dhruva was very, Dhruva actually means fixed, actually. Therefore the pole star is called Dhruva Loka because it's fixed in one point and all the other stars are going around it. So Dhruva was very fixed in his determination to worship the Supreme Lord. He didn't let anything get in the way of his worship. Finally, he was so focused on the Supreme Lord, he wasn't even hardly eating, he was hardly drinking, hardly breathing. In fact, he choked up the whole universal breathing process. People were freaking out. So although he had a material desire, in his pursuance of that material desire, he performed devotional service in a very fixed way. So our devotional service can be adulterated in different ways. One thing is we can have other ambitions other than pure devotional service. And we can also do other activities other than pure devotional service. So although Dhruva had another ambition other than to achieve perfection in devotional service, he wanted to get a very incredible material result, a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma. He wasn't interrupted in his focus on his devotional service. He was completely absorbed. He didn't have any other plan to attain success, but just devotional service. So there's a nice verse that's sometimes quoted in this connection. It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.10. Kama sarva kama va moksha kama udaradi terena bhakti yogena yajeda purusham puram. One may desire all kinds of material enjoyment, one may desire liberation, or one may have no desire, like the pure devotee. The pure devotees, they don't have any desire because their only desire is to engage in devotional service, and the only thing they're doing is engaging in devotional service, so they're very satisfied. All they want to do is serve Krishna, and they're serving Krishna. So the verse says that whether you're any one of these three types of people, if you perform a tivrena bhakti yogena, one-pointed devotional service, then you will attain all perfection. Not only will you attain that perfection you're aspiring for, but you'll also attain the perfection of pure devotional service, which is such as the case with Dhruva Maharaj, that when by the intensity of his devotional service the Lord actually appeared, he realized that in comparison to the darshan of the personality of Godhead, this desire to have a kingdom greater than that of Lord Brahma was truly insignificant. It was just like pieces of broken glass compared to the valuable gem of the darshan of the Supreme Personality. So he was successful because he approached a guru, Narada Muni, and because he did exactly what the guru said, even though he had some material ambition for worshipping the Supreme Lord. The devotional service of the Supreme Lord is purifying, so even though one may start out with these four kinds of material ambitions that are mentioned in the Gita verse Prabhupada quotes, that by performing the devotional service we'll get to the point where we just want to serve Krishna because we realize that Krishna is so worthy of our service, and that actually the perfection is to serve Krishna. Lord Chaitanya would quote, Jiveresvar poi Krishnera nitidasti, constitutional position of the living entity is that he's the eternal servant of Krishna. So when the living entity is engaged in Krishna's service, that is the joy of the living entity. That's the most enjoyable situation one can possibly be in, is to engage in unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. There's a verse that's quoted in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Savai pum sam haro dharmo yata bhaktir hoksate ahaita ki apratiyata yata suprasidati. The supreme occupational dharma for all humanity is that by which one can attain to loving service unto the transcendent Lord. Such service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So everyone is trying to satisfy themselves, but nobody is thinking, if I just perform unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then I'll be satisfied. Right? Everyone has a different strategy for attaining satisfaction, but actually they're not approved by the Srimad Bhagavatam. If we look within and we notice there's some dissatisfaction in our heart, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's either because our devotional service is motivated by something other than the desire to please Krishna, or that there's something else that we're doing besides engaging in devotional service. And that is because the actual identity of the living entity is that he's the eternal servant of Krishna. So that's the one thing that will satisfy the soul. So first of all, we have to understand this intellectually, and then we have to engage in the devotional service according to the direction of the Guru, and then we can actually come to the realization that this is actually true. That the only thing that satisfies my soul is this unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. So the Guru, of course, has to be a bona fide Guru, and a bona fide Guru is one who's a pure devotee of the Lord. There's a verse that says even a person born in a family of dog eaters can be a Guru if he's an unalloyed devotee of the Lord, whereas somebody who's a Brahmana can't really play the role of a Guru if he's not a pure devotee. A Brahmana, there's different phases of Brahman. There's Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and somebody can be considered a Brahmana if they just know Brahman. But they're not qualified to be a Guru unless they know Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord. So then Prabhupada quotes this famous verse which everyone should memorize. 7:16. Tato Vedya Yutanam Tanam Sukriti Narjuna Aditya Arjati Gyana Chabartashana. It talks about the 4 kinds of pious men. So to make this class interactive, sometimes people like to make classes interactive. We could actually ask everyone in the room which of these 4 they were.
The one who suffers.
Okay, anybody else want? Yeah?
The curious.
Okay.
The ones who want wealth.
Okay.
Those are
People
distress.
loving God for his money.
Those
Yeah.
are in distress.
And distress. Yeah.
We're still looking for the higher truth.
See, yeah. Did you know that the Supreme Lord was the highest truth?
I know there was something more.
Okay.
I needed to find what there was.
Yeah, because the person in knowledge actually knows the Supreme Lord is the highest truth, and the person who's just curious. So you were, I think, just curious. You weren't in knowledge that Krishna was the absolute truth, and you wanted to know more about him. Do you want to say? Are you? No?
We got the fall then.
What's that?
We got the fall then.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Well, more. I came because I was curious and I was in distress. For 2 reasons. So, So the important thing is that we maintain our interest in devotional service even after our material desires is fulfilled. Because some people, they just get God to fulfill their desire and then they go on with enjoying the program of enjoying life now with their material desire fulfilled. But ideally, by performing the devotional service, our heart will become purified and will actually become attracted to performing the devotional service just because it's our constitutional position. There's 5 famous verses that Prabhupada quotes from time to time in the Bhagavatam. He quotes it in one of those songs he wrote in the boat. He also quotes it in the purport to 7.1. It starts out with Srinvitam Svakata Krishna, and it ends Nasta Paresh Vadreshin Bhagavata Seva Bhagavata Utama Shoke Bhakti Bhavati Naishaki Tada Rajas Tamo Bhava Kama Lobadayaste Etaranavidam Stitam Sape Prasidati. You know the next one? Evam Prasana Manasa Bhagavad Bhakti Yogita Bhagavad Tapa Vijnanam Ukta Sangasya Jayate Chidante Samshaya Shiyante Chasi Karmane Justa Evatmani Shere. But he doesn't quote the one after that, which is 22, 1-2-22. Adavai Kavyo Nityam Bhaktim Paramaya Muda Vasudeva Bhagavati Krava Yatma Prasadani. So that verse begins therefore. So therefore means in light of the previous 5 verses. Therefore, since time immemorial, all transcendentalists have been rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with great delight, because such service is enlivening to the self. So the devotional service is its own reward. It's the pleasure of Krishna's association and the joy, the true joy of the soul. And when we mature in our devotional service, we'll be satisfied just serving Krishna. But she's starting out having a material desire, which is not a disqualification. And sometimes when they talk about these 4 different kinds of people, they mention different famous people who are in the different categories. Does anybody remember any of the famous people they usually mention it in light of the 4 categories? Who came from knowledge? Anybody remember? Usually they say the Kumaras and the Shukadeva Goswami. And who came from distress? Yeah, Gajendra's one. Yeah, very good. And who came from in need of money? That was Dhruva. Dhruva came in need of, And inquisitive. Is that the sages? Yeah. So it's not a disqualification that people come originally from these material motives. Krishna actually mentions in Bhagavad Gita. But the disqualification is if we satisfy those particular desires and then we decide to do something else besides devotional service with the rest of our life. But now there's a nice verse talking about when I read this part about all the desires being fulfilled, remind me of a very nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 1, Text 36. Kalim Subha Jayantyaya Gunagya Sarabhagina Yata Sankirtanenaiva Sarva Swarta Vilavite So this just comes four verses after that very famous verse, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishna Sangha Pangastra Parsham Yagnai Sankirtana Prarya Yujanti Isamedasa. This verse means that those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. So usually we don't talk about age of Kali as having any value, except negative value. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga. Not only does it have value, but it's actually worshipable. Because in this fallen age, all perfection of life, so that's that word Sparta. Arta means self-interest, and Spa means one's own. And Sarva means all. Sarva Swarta Vilabhite. Everything that's in one's own self-interest can be attained easily by the performance of Sankirtan. So all you Sankirtan devotees, you should memorize that verse. 11:5:36. Kalim subhajayantaya guna gya sarvagina yatra sankirtanena iva sarva swarta vilamite. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga, because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. So we often think there's a lot of problems with the age of Kali. Does anybody remember the list of problems of the age of Kali? There's a verse 11:10, any bhakti by Baba students here. Remember the Manda Sumanda Matayo? Remember what they are in English or French? Unlucky, misguided, lazy, and above all is disturbed. So usually we think that there's all these bad qualities about the age of Kali, but you know what the worst quality about the age of Kali is? There's one quality that's worse than all the other bad qualities. The quality that's worse than all the other bad qualities at the age of Kali is people don't have faith in the holy name. Because if they had faith in the holy name, then all the other bad qualities could be completely eliminated. So it's important that we have faith in the holy name. And this whole movement exists because of Srila Prabhupada's faith in the holy name. Even though he was in his late 60s, he was willing to get on that boat and travel for 38 days to America because he had faith that this holy name could bless the entire world. There's a story about that Bibi Govindaswamy tells. Bibi Govindaswamy was there at, he tells about, he heard it from this Akhinchana Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj, this godbrother of Prabhupada who was like a Babaji, who would like chant the holy night like practically all the time, either kirtan or japa, or he was like always chanting. So he was at Prabhupada's sannyas ceremony, this Akhinchana Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj, and of course he was chanting, because he was always chanting. So they were like getting the yagya together, and Narayan Maharaj was one of the pujaris, and then Keshav Maharaj, the guru, and they felt that he was chanting too loud and he was making a disturbance, so they motioned to him to quiet down, and then they went to look at their yaga and got back into it. And then Prabhupada glanced over at Akhinchana Krishna and went like this. And then, so Akhinchana Krishnadas Babaji, when he was telling Bibi Govinda Swami the story, and said, when I saw him go like this, I knew his mission would be fulfilled. So this, in this age of Kali, the regular program of worshipping the Supreme Lord is the chanting of the holy name. And there's so many bona fide instructions in devotional service that Prabhupada could have given his initiates. But basically just told him to chant these 16 rounds and to stay away from these 4 really simple activities that rivet your consciousness into the body concept of life. Because the holy name of the Lord is so powerful that it can destroy all our material contamination. So we have to chant with faith, and we have to chant with great concentration, like Dhruva Maharaj. He just was completely focused on the order his guru gave him, and therefore he was successful. And in a purport in that section, Prabhupada said, we are completely unable to execute the austerities that Dhruva Maharaj performed. But what our spiritual master has given us, we should execute with the same enthusiasm that Dhruva Maharaj did, and we'll be successful. So, it's very important we enthusiastically follow the instruction to chant the 16 rounds very attentively, because apparently Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in his Harinam Chintamani that even if we commit some of the 10 offenses, if we can eliminate the offense of inattention, and we can just chant with complete attention, then by the purity of that chanting, we can eliminate the other offenses. But even if we don't perform any of the other 10 offenses, if we're inattentive in our chanting, we won't get Krishna Prema. Because Krishna is his holy name, and if he's right there and we're not paying attention to him, that shows we don't have very much interest in Krishna Prema, isn't it? We have much more interest in the manoratena, the manorata, the desires of our mind. One of our administrators at ISKCON New York, he says that if we chant inattentively, we're, instead of developing our relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna, who's not different from his holy name, we're just developing our relationship with our mind. We already have a very long relationship with it. Yeah. So those are a few thoughts about this. Another thing that's sort of interesting is that so Kasyapa had at least 2 wives, among them Aditi and Diti. And Aditi is the mother of the Adityas, the demigods, and Diti is the mother of the Daityas, or demons. So actually from Kasyapa's point of view, they're both his children, the demigods and the demons. So although Diti is very upset that her children got from Kasyapa's point of view, that both sets of both the demons and the demigods were his children. So, which is an interesting point. And the distinguishing feature, of course, is that the demons, they don't accept the position of the personality of Godhead, and don't act according to the directions of the Vedic literature, which are the injunctions of the Supreme Lord. Actually, there's that chapter, the divine and demoniac nature, and Prabhupada makes that point that it's not enough to believe in God. Right? You actually have to follow the injunctions of the Supreme Lord to actually be considered religious. The Devas are open to accept the authority of the Lord and follow the Vedic path, whereas the demons do their own thing and create a lot of karma and cause trouble to themselves and others by neglecting the perfect knowledge the Supreme Lord has given out of his compassion in the Vedic literature. So those are a few thoughts related to the verse purport and Srimad Bhagavatam section we're dealing with. Does anybody have any questions or comments or realizations? Yes.
Thank you for the class that increased faith in the Holy Name. If it can grow further. Meanwhile, some little one question because I could not catch about the four kind of pious men and who illustrates the most these four pious type of pious men. Regarding the curious, we mentioned the inquisitive are the four Kumaras or Shukadev Goswami.
We mentioned the sages at the Namishrani.
Alright. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, and both the Kumaras and the Shukadev Goswami, they were highly advanced in knowledge.
Okay. And the other question, we were talking yesterday evening, before you came, we had a little reading about Krishna book. And at the end,
Krishna book, Ki Jai.
And Rohit Prabhu mentioned the story of Ajamila and was asking the power of Namabas. We know that there are two types, Ashada Namabas and Shada Namabas. And the question is, how it happened in the story of Ajamila. Did he get back straight away to Godhead? And what type of Namabas can help us to, what can give ultimately the Namabas stage?
Well, I'm not expert on the divisions of Namabas, but I know it said that Namabas can give all the blessings of the holy name except for prema. And that I've heard from authorities. And Ravindra Sri Prabhu made an interesting point in Mayapur one time, talking about Namabas. It's like sometimes we experience like when we come to Krishna consciousness that it's really blissful in the beginning, and sometimes it's not as blissful later on as it was in the beginning. So he explained that in that way, that in the beginning we're innocently chanting the holy name, and our chanting is Namabas. And Namabas is considered a liberated stage. It's not the stage of prema, but it's also not the stage of being implicated in material energy. It's a stage of becoming free from the material energy. So when we chant in Namabas, we feel the bliss of detachment from the material energy, being becoming free from the material energy. But to maintain our position on Namabas, we have to, once we learn what the offenses are, we actually have to consciously try to avoid the offenses. And if we don't consciously try to avoid the offenses, then we go from Namabas down to Namaparad. And therefore the blissful feeling of being liberated from material existence goes away because we're implicated again due to our offenses in the holy name. So I thought that was an interesting explanation of why we feel a little happy and extra happy in the beginning. And I had a very interesting time. At one point, maybe they still do, the London devotees, they would chant in different parts of the city. There's all kinds of different regions with different names, and we're singing a region of London called Lewisham, and we're doing Harinam through the town. And there was like a couple butcher shops there, and the people who seemed like most happy about our coming through there were the people in the butcher shops. And you wouldn't think that, right? But if you meditate on it further, you think, well, this chanting is freeing people from their sinful reactions, and the people with the worst sinful reactions are the people who work in the butcher shops. So they're feeling the greatest relief. And then it made sense. So, interesting. So you had an additional point?
In the Ajamil pastime, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that when Ajamil first called out and named his son Narayan, then when you have a child, you call your child many times.
Yeah.
So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Padi is explaining that the first time he called him, he got freedom from all his past sinful reactions. The first time he called him. And all during his lifetime, all the times he called his son Narayan, then that was his bhakti sukriti. That was his pious credit in order to attain bhakti. But now how is it that just by chanting one time, one gets freedom from all sinful reactions? And then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this is a very special case because Ajamil had no previous offenses. And because he had no offenses, that name, that Nam Abbas, was completely effective. However, still when the Vishnudutas came, he didn't went back to Godhead.
Right.
He was given a second chance. And then he came back to his body, and then he went to, I think what's it called?
Haridwar.
Haridwar or Badrinath Ashram to meditate. And then he went to Goloka Vrindavan.
Right.
Namaparad, Indra would say, gives liberation and freedom from sinful reactions.
Namabas.
Namabas.
Right.
And Krishna and Shuddhanam gives Krishna prem.
Yeah, in the Ajamil section there's a very powerful verse, 6:2-14. Sanketam parihasam vastavam helam evava kuntanama grahanama sheshagam haram vidu. One chants the holy name Sanketam to indicate something else. Parihasam, one chants the holy name jokingly. One chants the holy name for musical enjoyment. Not that you know who Krishna is and the fact that Krishna is better than all the demigods, but you just like to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And helanam, even in criticism or derision, if you chant any one of those ways, asheshagam, haram vidu. Ashesha means unlimited. Aga means sinful reactions. Hara means are stolen away. Vidu means this is known to all learned men. So even if you chant any of those four ways, you become free from unlimited sinful reactions. So it's very Harinam party is very auspicious.
So we don't need to come to Mangalarti, be vegetarian, all these things.
I don't know. That's it. It's an aparad. It's committing sins on the strength of chanting the holy name. It's one of the worst ones. So watch out. Yeah. So the Kadambakana Swami was saying, Smita Krishna Swami told him that he was in Prabhupada's presence when Prabhupada said, when the chanting party goes down the street is never the same. When people go down the street in the future, they will become purified. So all these shoppers at Leal are becoming purified.
Even the drunkards, they see us and you're Hare Krishna. They like to smoke.
Where we regularly chant.
Shoppers.
Yeah. Shopping. They are the core. Shopping is very popular. Leal, right? When somebody asked me when I was doing Harinam there how successful we were. I was saying mostly they're distracted by the shopping. Not really focused on what we have to offer. Yes?
Yes, it's a good question if we have time.
Oh, actually that time.
This is not the correct
Yeah.
time.
It is actually 9 o'clock, so.
Yeah. It's very short to talk about Kadatar Pandit appearance.
Oh well, Gadadhar Pandit is let's see he's a member of the Panchatattva Kama Krishnam Bhakti Rupa Swarupam Bhaktavatam Bhakti Namami Bhakti Shakti Kama. He's Bhakti Shakti, he's the Shakti Tattva, the Supreme Lord, and he's worshipped as Gadadhar. Lord Chaitanya worshipped by Bhaktivinoda Thakur at his place in And he, every day, Lord Chaitanya, when he was in Puri, would go to the Toda Gopinath garden. Toda actually means garden. And hear Gadadhar Pandit recite the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he recited it in so much ecstasy that the Bhagavatam later became unusable because the tears of ecstasy that washed these ink on the pages. And he was very intimate, and he wanted to follow Lord Chaitanya on his journey to Vrindavan. The Lord sent him home, which he wasn't very happy about. Yeah. So those are a few things about it. And you can find more on the database by looking up Gadadhar Pandit. Thank you for your kind attention, and very happy to be back in Paris briefly, just to get a taste of how nice it is, so I can come back in June et juillet pour 2 mois pour Harinam à Paris. Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Gadadhar Pandit Ki, Sadhaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki, Gaura Prabhupada.